Good morning or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from around the world. If you're based here in snowy Chicago, thankfully the water unfroze today. And so we're excited to begin a new year as Lake County Lake Lovers, where we are sharing information to help make lakes better. So tonight we have a fantastic program with one of our scientific experts, Paul Spiewak, and Bill Cody, my co-chair for Lake Lovers, is going to be facilitating tonight. As you may or may not know, we are a nonprofit organization started a couple years ago, recognizing that in the state of Illinois, here in the United States, Lake County's lakes are very impaired, especially compared to the national average. And we know that our official resources are constrained. They don't have people to do all the testing and the management. So that's where all of us as concerned citizens come in. And today we're going to get a fabulous opportunity to learn from Paul, who took the time last year to attend 4 really interesting lake conferences, and we're going to hear his important takeaways. So thank you for joining tonight. I believe that we'll be recording this for those who can't join us. And then just come back every month. We put together hopefully a valuable program where we are focused on sharing information, what works and what doesn't, to help lakes get better. So looks like we've got our slides. And Bill, if you're ready, I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, Becky. First of all, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight's meeting. We are going to be really, I would say, educated on many, many items. And if you don't have your candy yet, you might want to just go ahead and get your little candy or your tea ready as we get into our presentation tonight. We've had a very successful 2024 with Lake Lovers, and it's very exciting to start moving into our new year, 2025, and really moving forward into who and what we are. We are really passionate advocates for the lakes within our county. We're totally a volunteer organization, and we're really dedicated because there's a lot of challenges our lakes have, and we got to work towards better restorations and sustainability. So we are really a grassroots working group looking for those passionate people who are concerned about the future of their lakes, just not tomorrow or next week. We're looking for decades, for our children, grandchildren, anybody that has an interest in a lake. We are here to help do that. Mary, go back to that one slide, please.
Sorry. Okay.
So, there's been a big problem in across the United States, but we're concentrating right now on our own lakes. 173 lakes are impaired in Lake County. And also we have watersheds that are impaired, watersheds under pressure for development. We've had also river pollutions and just everything that can be added on to a bad environment we have right here in our county. So what are we looking for? Why are we doing this? And, why are we getting to have to do this? Well, number one, money. Allocation of funds from the state, federal, and even local agencies have not been a priority for many years. And for our infrastructure that was initially put together with our lakes has really kind of fallen apart. So we are now becoming more responsible in taking on our own lakes problems to ourselves. And so, we're really looking to increase lake sustainability, support healthy lakes. And, an example right now is the cyanobacteria algae blooms in the county and throughout actually the Midwest have been increasing because of climate change. So it becomes even more why we should be becoming more involved in our lakes. Please go to the next slide, Mary. So, when we sit down and we look at ourselves here, what do we believe? Well, we're committed volunteers with what it takes to improve our water resources. We believe that we can do this. We have the resources, the content experts. We have the capability through people who live in the county to really make our lakes in a better shape, better condition, longer sustainability. And how do we work? Well, we really involve ourselves in giving our talents to each one of us to really give to create synergy in action. And we will hope and guide other people to engage with us, like what we've been doing with our group that we just had the meeting with, to be core scientists, citizen scientists. And what do we deliver? Well, we're right there. We raise awareness. We want to promote action, data driven. We measure water health and create public trends. We're looking to engage students, and boy, what a success we had last year with our student communities. And we want to see more public and private donors to partner with us. And we're working on that very, very diligently in 2025. So, our program is now moving forward, and I'm going to introduce Paul. Paul is a resident on Countryside Lake, and Paul has been involved in his lake, in a lake management plan for many, many years. And Paul is a retired analytical chemist with Searle, if I remember correctly, Paul. And, had a great career with them, and tremendous understanding of a lot of different chemistries, and is really devoting his time into these areas. As you can see with him going to conferences, he's been a light in the end of the tunnel and education. So I'm going to turn this over to Paul. Paul, number one, thank you for all the time and effort that you've put into this. And I'm going to sit back, eat a couple M&Ms, and listen to your program.
I've got my popcorn. So, Paul, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Thanks for that introduction, and thanks everybody else for taking time out of your schedule to attend this Zoom meeting. So I attended 4 aquatic ecology or limnology, freshwater, conferences in 2024. And that took place over at these 4 conferences over, I counted up about 12 days. And I'm gonna condense that. I'm gonna distill that into about 20 minutes. So 12 days converted into 20 minutes. So here we go. So these are the 4 conferences I went to, and yep. And then so we go to the next slide.
Sorry, I was thinking 20 minutes, we better go. So
yeah, right. So next slide, please, Mary. Okay, so I'm going to first talk about the similarities between these conferences. The photo is from the NOMS conference, as it says. And so who attends these and who speaks at them? It's 3 different groups. Universities, there's a lot of PhDs and PhD students from universities across the country. There's government people from these different agencies and more than that. And then there's people from industry, especially a lot of engineering consultants that might be looking for customers that need to do an alum treatment on their lake or dredging, or there's also treatment contractors that go to these as more as listeners than as speakers. And then another group is chemical company scientists. These are the chemical companies like CPRO that make the chemicals that we use to treat our lakes to deal with the invasive species or the algae blooms. So next slide, please. So a typical program, the first day is an all-day workshop, and the workshop is just one subject. And in some cases, it's 8 hours on one subject taught by experts, or sometimes they just have a morning workshop and then there's a separate one in the afternoon. And if you go to one of these conferences at a faraway place, I would say always do a workshop, because you're already there and you've already got your hotel room and you've traveled there, and so definitely do the workshop. Usually the conference will give you 3 to 5 workshops to choose from. So on the main conference, it's about 2.5 days for one of these And I'm sometimes call them a convention or sometimes call them a conference, but I'll usually be conference. And they're usually about 50 presentations on average. They're usually 20-minute presentations and they're grouped together. In the right column are a bunch of different things they typically put at these conferences to encourage networking. So they have these things that are shown in the bullet points, but they also have a mixer, and there's usually a little bit of alcohol involved, which makes the shy people a little bit more willing to meet strangers. And this is really one of the most valuable things, even though it's a little awkward and a little, you know, uncomfortable to meet new people. The people you meet are fascinating, and they're very likely to tell you things that you don't know, and it's a great learning experience. So next slide, please. So that's the typical conference, and now I'm going to talk about each of the 4 conferences just in specific. So this is the Phosphorous Forum. It was in Tempe, Arizona back in February 24. Now this one was only a 2-day conference, and you could see only 84 attendees and 13 presentations. So these are not 20-minute presentations. These are much longer presentations. This was an international conference. There were people from Brussels, Belgium, and Egypt, and other places. This conference was about like farmers need phosphorus to grow their crops, and they don't have enough. And lakes like my lake and probably your lakes have too much phosphorus. This group, the Sustainable Phosphorus Alliance, is trying to put those two together to take what we have too much of and get it to the farmers who have too little. One of these, the link there at the bottom, the Phosphorous Forum on YouTube, that is most of the talks that were given, and it's all open access. So if you're interested in seeing what they talked about, I mean, it's the full conference, not 100%, but it's probably 90% of the conference on YouTube. Next slide, please.
Sorry, here.
Okay, the next one I went to was in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. That was in April. And this was a really good conference. I liked it a lot. You can see 400 attendees and 67 presentations. They've been doing this for 46 years. That link on the bottom is the abstracts of the different talks that they went through, of the 67 different talks, and met some pretty interesting people. And I plan on going to this one again. Yes, I will go to this one again. Next one, please. Next slide. Okay. Then I went to the Aquatic Plant Management Society. So this was in Tampa Bay, Florida in July. This was 1 week before the big hurricane hit right in Tampa Bay, 1 week before. So it's a terrible shame, but a lot of the places that I've probably walked around it was right on the water. So, a lot of those boats are probably underwater and all kinds of terrible things, but it was a very good program there, and they've been doing this for 64 years. At the bottom there is a link to the Aquatic Plant Management Society issues of their journal, science articles about aquatic ecology and limnology, all those things, going back many years, I think going back even decades. So that's a really great link there. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, I forgot about this one. This is the granddaddy of them all. This is the NALMS conference. This was in Lake Tahoe. And boy, maybe I'm bad luck, because look at the title on there: Flood and Drought, Fire and so in the western states, they have these forest fires, wildfires, like is happening in Los Angeles right now, and floods on other parts of the country, like maybe the hurricane that hit Florida. All that junk ends up in our lakes. So all those and the erosion that occurs after fires and all the chemicals from the burning homes in Los Angeles, a lot of that stuff's going to end up in lakes, and it's going to take a long time to clean that up and all those pollutants. And so those are things, especially the wildfires, that they're really concerned in the western states. This North American Lake Management Society. I looked at them as kind of the masters of knowledge in this field, and it's a great organization. I took a all-day workshop there on the bottom of the slide on sediment phosphorus inactivation in lakes and ponds. And that was mostly about alum treatments to bond the phosphorus in the bottom of the lake so it can't get into the water column and cause an algae bloom. I'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. So that 3.5 days, 258 presentations, 700 attendees, had all the usual mixers, and at the end they had a boat ride with all the appetizers and alcohol you could drink all around Lake Tahoe. It was memorable. Well, sort of memorable. What I can remember of it. Okay, yes, thanks. So lake management isn't just about science, it's about these other things, as you probably already know. But tonight, it's just about science. So next slide, please. So I'm going to just pull out 3 trending topics from what I learned at these 4 conferences. First is satellite monitoring, the second is phosphorus, and the third is HABs, harmful algae blooms. Next slide, please. And this just, I'm kind of an extra slide here, but okay, there we go. So satellite technology advances. I was very impressed with what the satellites can do now. The thing that impressed me the most is they have stored all this data that the satellites have taken over decades. So they can go back as much as 40 years, 40, and they can get Secchi readings and turbidity readings and lake depths and concentrations of chlorophyll A. So these satellites that they've launched, Landsat satellites, were done by the United States. And the Sentinel series of satellites are the European satellites that are more modern. But all that data is free, but it's raw data, and it needs to be processed to make it usable. There's also additional data on a lake, more remote lakes or smaller water bodies, that you could purchase that data from satellites put out by the Maxar Corporation if needed. But I think in the case of all our lakes, it probably isn't needed. It's probably already available on Landsat or Sentinel. Next slide, please. So these companies, let me jump to the bottom there. There's 2 companies. EOMAP, EO for Earth Observation Map. This is a German company, a fairly small German company, bunch of computer guys. And they have taken the raw data from the satellites and turned it into graphical, pictures and charts and graphs and things like that. That's very usable data. And in the US, the Xylem Corporation, same company that gave us that equipment I talked about before, is done through Xylem's group called the Aqua Group. And that's the polished data. Now they're going to charge money for that. NASA they're working on a beta test version of visualization of this, processed satellite data. But I think it's got a ways to go. Next slide, please. And this is, back one, that one. So I don't know, is this a video, Mary, or is this just a summary?
I was hoping it was a video, and I'm not, let me see if I can click on it. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'll put the video in the chat. So
it's a really good video. I think it's 2 or 3 or 5 minutes or so. I think it's 2 minutes. And it's an example of what the satellites can do and what this EOMAP application can do. But it's crazy impressive. And I think that this is getting better and better quickly. So if you, for example, if you have some historic data, but you have a gap in your data, you might be able to fill that in, even though it was years ago. You might be able to fill it in with data from the satellite, the archived satellite data. But well worth watching the 2-minute video at your leisure there. Okay, the next topic after satellites, take-home topic, was about phosphorus. So phosphorus is a worldwide problem. It's not just your lake. It's not just Lake County, Illinois. It's not even just the United States. It's all over the whole world. And there's many forms of phosphorus. Some are bioavailable. In fact, I would even say many are bioavailable, unfortunately. And why are we worried about phosphorus? I think maybe everybody on this talk already knows, but the phosphorus is kind of the weak link in algae blooms. And if, what does algae need to grow? It needs water. Okay, well, it's in a lake, plenty of water. It needs light. Well, the sun comes up every morning. Okay. And it needs nitrogen, but a lot of these HABs can take nitrogen out of the atmosphere, which is 80% nitrogen, and convert it into nitrate, which is how they use it. And so we don't have a lot of places to attack the HABs or the algae blooms other than phosphorus. And we have to limit it. We have way too much phosphorus in our lakes, and that's the weak link that we can maybe remediate and improve our lakes with. So the phosphorus occurs in 2 places, either internal or external. External is runoff or phosphorus coming in the water that leads into your lake. Internal is the historic phosphorus that came into your lake that is now bonded into the bottom sediment of your lake and can release into the lake water column and produce algae under certain conditions. Let's see, the phosphorus binding technology there. The old technology is alum, and it's not as good as the new technology, which is called LMB. LMB stands for lanthanum modified bentonite. And both of these are permanent bonding of the phosphorus, but the LMB is only 1 million times stronger bond than the alum phosphorus bond, only 1 million times stronger. But they're both permanent. And so, it doesn't mean alum's not good. I could go on and on, but I just want to touch on some of these highlights. Okay, next slide, please. So at the Phosphorous Forum, the one in Tempe, Arizona, the fertilizer manufacturers were at the conference. There were only 84 people, and I thought, you guys are really brave to attend this conference because all these lake people kind of hate you because you're putting all this phosphorus and it's getting into our lakes and causing all these algae blooms. And they say, and a lot of stuff is economics, right? And they say they are making phosphorus that is way more sophisticated than plain old-fashioned phosphorus. But farmers are smart people. They don't want 68% of what they spend money on to just run off into our lakes. But there's a lot of complications, economics, that make it where a farmer has to put phosphorus on his land, even though he already knows he has too much, it's crazy. And I mentioned about this 8-hour workshop already about phosphorus binding. So next slide, please. There's a little more about phosphorus. Even though if you just took the square footage of a shoreline, upland of the water line, and you take a 1 acre, maybe you go upshore 100 feet, and you convert that into acreage. Each acreage contains about 500 pounds of phosphorus, and that could be anywhere from about 10% to 30% bioavailable phosphorus. And 1 pound of phosphorus can produce 500 pounds of wet algae. That's a take-home message right there. Buffer strips are a great idea. And 13% of all the NOMS presentations were about phosphorus. Next slide, please. There's a picture you won't forget. So 1 pound of phosphorus can produce 500 pounds of wet algae. And this is the filamentous algae, which is actually a cyanobacteria. It's not a toxic cyanobacteria, but it is a cyanobacteria. Next one, please. Yep. So what do you do about phosphorus? Prevention is the cheapest. Definitely. If you can find out where the phosphorus is coming from, where does it come from? Typically, it comes from wastewater treatment plants. That's the effluent of wastewater treatment plants. If that goes into your lake, that's a good place to look. Second is agricultural runoff from fertilizers on farm fields in the agriculture field, failing septic systems, even geese on your lake add phosphorus, and then shoreline erosion adds phosphorus. So there's lots of different sources. But if you can find it and stop it, maybe it's talking to a farmer, or maybe it's a golf course. Then the next bullet, bonding the internal phosphorus in the lake bottom, it's expensive. It's very expensive. So 150-acre lake might cost $1 million to bond that phosphorus. But otherwise, the alternative is living with HABs probably for a very long time. Another technology is phosphorus interception at the lake inlets. So on my lake, we have a lot of phosphorus coming on the one inlet that we have. And one technology is to add a liquid. It's a lanthanum-based liquid, and it bonds up that phosphorus before it gets into our lake, right before it gets into our lake. The Green Lake in Wisconsin is thinking about doing that. And there's a lake in Washington State that has been doing it. And it's still kind of a new technology, I think, but I think it's something we might do on my lake, for example. And this group STEPS is funded at about $5 million per year for the next 5 years. It's 9 universities around the country, and they are looking for new phosphorus binding materials that would go beyond alum or LMB. Next slide, please. Okay, so HABs. The federal government, with their GAO report, is recommending a lot more money be spent on this problem. And climate change is something they also talk about at all these conferences, and it's going to make these HABs worse. So the toxin inside cyanobacteria cells get released when they die. And as I think all know, it's most dangerous to dogs because they drink the water. When people swim in the water, they don't usually drink it, accidentally, maybe a little, but dogs actually love to drink it. And then they lick their fur, it gets in their stomach, that breaks the cells open, releases the toxin, dog dies. So, yes. So prevention of HABs is possible. And one way to do that is dealing with the phosphorus. How do you treat a HAB? So the experts don't agree on this. Some say you don't treat it at all. You just warn people, don't go in the water and don't let your dog drink the water. But others say no, that if you can catch it early, you should treat it. So the doubling time for these bacteria, these cyanobacteria, the doubling time is less than a day. And under ideal conditions, or ideal for the cyanobacteria, it can double every 6 hours. So if in the magic of compounding or whatever, it can cover your whole lake very quickly, even sooner than you might, visually notice it. And some of these sensors, like the xylem fluorimeter sensor, can tell you, we can kind of predict a HAB, or or it can maybe not predict it, but it can tell you in an early stage of a HAB, maybe there's time to treat it. What do you treat it with? You can treat it with copper, or you can treat it with peroxide. The peroxide's more expensive, and it's non-specific, so it also bonds to just anything and destroys it, which is, okay if it's a pollutant, but it destroys good things too. And the copper is a little bit non-specific also. It kills the zooplankton, for example, that eat the algae. So in the food web, if you kill the next layer up that eats the algae, well, that's not going to help get rid of your algae, because you just destroyed the predator. And so if you do treat it, and it was, a little bit widespread, it can rebloom from the phosphorus that's released. A lot of lakes have basically all season algae bloom, and it's really not the same algae. The algae has a life cycle, I believe, of about 2 weeks. And so it's the bloom, and then it dies, it releases its phosphorus, new algae takes its place. And to us, it appears to be one long bloom, but it's really a series of blooms throughout the whole summer. And next slide, please. So this slide, I couldn't figure out where to put it in this presentation. It's one of my last slides. But the engineers say you really need to do these 7 steps. And they said everybody wants to start at step 7, which is basically adaptive management. In other words, hey, let's try this and see what happens. And it's really common. The engineers recommend not going that way. You can waste a lot of money, basically, if you don't do the right treatment for what your lake needs. Every lake's different. Next slide, please. And I think I've got one more after this. Yep, this one. So I'm going to encourage you all to attend one of these science conferences. And the one I'm going to pick out is that bottom one, the Illinois Lake Management Association meeting. It's in Northbrook. So for a lot of us, it's very close. I'm going. In fact, I might even be one of the speakers. And there's the link for the conference registration. It's $200, and it's 2 days or 2.5 days. Then jumping back up to the top one, the Midwest Aquatic Plant Management Society. This is at the Palmer House in Chicago. It's more expensive. I think it's $500, but a few days. And if you don't stay at the Palmer House, it's not too horribly expensive. And that's a link to sign up. Now this MAPMS, Midwest Aquatic Plant Management Society, this conference is bigger than the national conference, which I went to down in Florida. And that's because it's in the middle of February, and all the lake management contractors aren't as busy. And so they have time to go to this conference. And and the Midwest has got a huge percentage of all the freshwater lakes in the country. So this is supposed to be a really big conference. Unfortunately, I won't go. I just can't. I'm out of town. So if someone goes, please tell me, how did it go? What did you learn? I'd be very interested. And then finally, the Green Bay one, which is in March. It's just a week before the ILMA conference. And that one's in Green Bay. I am going to go to that one too. And that one it's a division of the NALMS group, and it's called the National Monitoring Conference. It's about the kind of things that we're talking about earlier with monitoring for all the different nutrients and all the different parameters that define lake health. And I think I probably exceeded my 12 days and 20 minutes, but probably not by too bad. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Bill at this point.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent presentation. I'd just like to add that the Wisconsin Rivers and Lakes Conference is March 26th through the 28th in Stevens Point. You can go to their website, and through January, there's an early bird conference price. I think it's $180. It runs for 2.5 days. I've registered myself, and I'm going to be going to it. So I'm looking forward to also the one in Northbrook. I attended the one here a couple of years ago up here in Gurnee. It was very, very informative. So I would highly recommend to anybody, if you're passionate about your lakes, that take some time and go to one of these conferences. So as we start ending our day, we're looking to build on the momentum of 2024. And we're looking to empower more lake volunteers, volunteers for schools, and see what we can do to move our, I would say, our group further ahead in the management of lakes in our county. So we would look to you, if you're not a member and you are passionate about your lake, join us. We need you. We need to have content experts. We need to have people who know how to best practice in their lake. We need you to maybe even facilitate other groups, help develop lake management plans. We have a lot on our plate and we need you. But looking at this next couple of weeks, we have another meeting on February 20th, 7 p.m. right here. And that's, we will probably, Mary will have I would say, a little itinerary on that coming up shortly. And then, of course, we have July 17th, Docks in Wakanda. And on September 20th, the cleanup on the Fox River, which I highly recommend. It's a beautiful river. And it's really because of the people in that Fox River group that are really making that river a beautiful river. We should all thank them for what they've done. So next slide, Mary. I think we're kind of at the end of our game here.
Yep.
So I want to thank everybody for their attendance tonight. It's been great to have as many people as we have on the Zoom tonight. Thank you very much for your attendance. Now, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have to Paul, or just generally about lake lovers.
There was a question in the chat. But
Trying
Dave,
to read it, Mary?
did you want to ask this, Dave? I think if you're,
No.
I'll read it. In 2022, the Government Accountability Office notified everyone on the HABs piece, and actually Paul spoke to this, that, they are advocating for more investment and it's time for every municipality to invest in this. There's good information in here, Dave, that you shared. We do have information also in the Lake County Lake Lover group and in a Lake Life group in the community that I will find and put in the chat here. But your point, Dave, was a question to Paul. Did people talk more about, this can't be just monitoring, but we need to actually mitigate, as Wayne Carmichael had said, he had studied, and the solutions exist if we can get rid of the phosphorus through enzymes, aeration, and other things. What did you hear? Had the tone of the conference moved from monitoring to treatment, Paul, I guess is the summary.
It's a tough enemy. It's the species, or these groups of species, these cyanobacteria are among the oldest species on Earth. They're like 3 billion years old. And even though they're single cells, they've evolved this pretty sophisticated defense mechanisms. Among them, this daily vertical migration, where they rise to the top of the water column and the data photosynthesize, and then they sink towards the bottom of the lake at night to escape predators. And even that is like, how can such a small organism, be kind of so smart in a way, and so it's a really tough enemy. And I think that it's a combination of things that's gonna work. It's gonna be a combination of maybe some chemicals and maybe some physical treatments. There was one concept at the NALMS. This guy, he was working out a system where he would pump water out of your lake. It was a big engineering deal. You pump water out of your lake, and it would take the HABs and basically filter them out. And this was all, reusable filters and everything was all a closed loop kind of thing. So basically physically filtering the HABs out of the water. But that's a, big money thing, and it's still experimental, and the HABs are a really tough problem. It makes me think, it makes me think like asbestos, right? So the asbestos thing, that's kind of a mega problem around the whole country. It's not as bad as asbestos, but it's pretty bad, Asbestos, I guess, kills a lot of people. I don't think the HABs are going to kill a lot of people, but they're going to probably kill a lot of dogs, and it's going to get worse. So, I think the government's spending much more money. I think the government should be spending tens to maybe small $100 million, billion, I mean, on HABs. The sooner the better, because it's not gonna, how long are we gonna suffer with this before we win the battle? We won the battle kind of with AIDS, more or less. It's not over, but it's way quieter, and we won the battle sort of with COVID. A lot of dead people and a lot of money and grief and tragedy. But these HABs are going to be, it's not as severe as those things, but it's a really, really tough enemy.
Yeah, and that's actually why
Gary had some, Gary, you had a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Mary, if you're making a comment.
just a quick comment. The reason Lake County Lake Lovers was started was because we learned about solutions in India, and some of those are in the community. So if anyone, we have a variety that could be used for pilots if someone's really struggling with problems. But Gary, go ahead. Thank you,
Well,
Paul. Great comments.
Just wanted to thank Paul for all that fun you had going to those conferences, but the information that you shared, and Will also for bringing it all back together. But one of the pieces of advice I share with younger people is a way to be successful is hang out with people that are smarter than you are. And that's why I like being with you people. It's really, and I recognized you in your group in the State of the Fox as this really important upcoming group, because you've really assembled, not just not in my backyard kind of people, but really what's the word I want? Strategically looking through what are the problems, what are the potential solutions, and bringing in experts, but building your own expertise. So, kudos to you for all of that. And just want to share that one of my colleagues is proposing that one of our biggest sources of phosphorus is soil erosion. And so, if you want to protect your lake, working with people that can be doing stream bank restoration on the feeder streams could really have big impact. Also, as I think in one of Paul's points, talking about your own shoreline and protecting that. It's the nature of our ambient soil that we have is high in phosphorus. So, but keep up the great work. And I want to do also, as long as I'm got the floor, thank you for recognizing it. It's our Fox River Day. I appreciate that, but I want to clarify it's a watershed event. So we're not encouraging people to come and worship by the river, but to do whatever you can, wherever you can in the watershed. And so I encourage every lake to have its own activity, and it doesn't have to be a cleanup. It can be educating homeowners on just the things that you're learning would be really valuable. So registration will be open soon. So we'll hope you participate, but thank you for your partnership.
Well, make sure Mary gets your time so that we can get that into our
I will. We're not quite there yet.
Okay, very good. Thank you very
Got
much.
the date right, though. That was good.
So anybody else have any questions?
There are a few in the chat, Bill.
No.
You want me to read?
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Okay.
You've got that call.
So Mary Lomas, yes, I just put the link to the presentation in the chat. Thank you. And Anoop, who works with has lime products, he was wondering if he's evaluating the milk of lime for extracting phosphorus. Has anyone had experience with that or heard of work in that area? I guess not here. So, Anoop, we welcome case studies in the community. So if you do find an example, we're happy to.
Mary, yeah, many years ago, they used calcium and liming for Druce Lake. And it's calcium, iron, and aluminum that bind with phosphorus in an aquatic environment. And calcium is the least, that's the least affinity. Iron is stronger, and iron chloride, for instance, is what's used in various sewage treatment plants for phosphorus reduction. And then alum is something that's relatively new, past 20 years. Applications have been used, and it is not permanent, but it has a possibility of lasting at least about 10 years for depending on the character of the application.
I can add a little to that. I'm recalling now that at the Phosphorous Forum, there was several people that mentioned polymer. They didn't say what polymer, for removing phosphorus and putting that into a cycle where they would absorb the phosphorus onto the polymer, and then they would shut off the in a reactor of some kind. They would close the door to the lake or whatever stream they were taking the phosphorus out of. Then they would modify the conditions where the polymer was to make it release its phosphorus, and then that way it would regenerate the polymer so that this cycle could occur over and over again. And they were working on trying to develop that product, that polymer product, to use it for removing phosphorus, whether it's in wastewater treatment plants or in lakes. And I've got one really kind of interesting thing. It's kind of a sciencey thing. It's not so much the lake, but if you just 1 minute, I'll summarize it in 1 minute. It's so cool. So energy storage, right? So in people, when in times of plenty, in humans, we store our energy as fat and we carry it around with us. Bumblebees and other kinds of bees, they store their energy during times of plenty in their hive in the form of honey. Well, there's some little microbes called PAOs, phosphorus accumulating organisms. They're bacteria, special kind of bacteria, a bunch of different kinds. And they store their energy during times of plenty as long chains of phosphorus, phosphate, actually. These long chains of phosphate, 100 phosphates long. And then during times of need of energy, when there's no food around, they break those phosphorus bonds one at a time and use that energy to live. And I just thought that's so cool. They do use that in wastewater treatment plants, but it's really hard to do, and it only works at pretty high levels, pretty high concentrations of phosphorus, phosphate, and it's just too high to be used in the lake. Fun fact.
Becky, what's
On
up?
that topic, just the idea of getting rid of phosphorus, you said that's the way to mitigate, the HABs problem. And Loch Lomond has been successful in reducing their lake closures just by getting rid of the geese primarily. They use this tool called Away with Geese. And Jerry, you have that experience. I don't know if anyone has solutions they care to mention. Just raise your hand or speak up, unmute.
Well, I think what the Loch Lomond, we've been using the lights. We've got about a dozen lights all on the lake, and it definitely has reduced the number of geese. So today I decided to Google exactly how much poop does a goose poop. And it was really kind of interesting to find out that here our dog, that's about 50 pounds, produces about 3/4 of a pound of poop a day. But geese produce 3 to 4 pounds. One goose, 3 to 4 pounds a day. And so if you've got 20 geese in your lake, you're getting quite a lot of poop. But they've made a lot of progress. I have not really been part of that project, but it was like putting the lights in, and it's been very effective. And they've added more lights this year. So, and I think sometimes the lights have disturbed some residents who live on the lake, and they just kind of shifted over a little bit. And so it's been very successful, along with trying to put fencing along our beaches and getting people to put either buffer strips or fencing along their shoreline. So I think the combination of things has really made a big impact on closures this year or last year. Sorry.
That's awesome.
Okay, back to you, Becky.
I just have a wild, crazy question because I heard when you mentioned copper, Paul, that copper is bad for the zooplankton, which is next up in the food chain. And I think I heard you say eats the algae. Does it eat the toxic algae?
I believe so.
Then, is
You
anyone
mentioned it.
working on how do you get more zooplankton so you've got more natural predators to try to, something must go wrong where the HABs get bigger than, I worked in bioscience, so, like you get sick because your white blood cells they weren't strong enough to gobble up what's invaded you. So why does the zooplankton, why is it unable to eat up all this algae? And who's trying
It
to
could be
make more of it?
the predator that eats the zooplankton is too plentiful.
And what predator is that? Sorry for my ignorance.
Fish,
What is it?
fish,
The fish are eating the zooplankton.
depending on the character of the um, food webs that you have in the lake.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you have planktivorous fish, they can modify the character of the amount of algae that might be there. Relative to the impact of this on public health, one of the things that's problematic is we don't have epidemiological studies to be able to back up a good deal of this. Dr. Miller from the University of Wisconsin Health Department is a regional expert in those good things. And so we don't have blood and urine samples from people to find out how much exposure they have to this. And the character of the impact on health in terms of impacting your liver and things of that sort is not such that you're going to have people dropping dead. And one of the people that has been best at being able to characterize the character of the toxicity was, in fact, Dr. Carmichael that Mary talked about before. But the more recent stuff that we have is problematic by not having really well done epidemiological studies for it. One last item is Paul, what's the other alternative other than copper? It's
Peroxide it'll work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, peroxide. One of the things about peroxides, they probably have an impact on zooplankton and the like. But one of the reasons that peroxide can be used is because we all have enzymes that are peroxidases. So one of the reasons that the peroxides are more favorable than copper is that fish and other good things like that have peroxides in their tissues, and so they can immediately handle the peroxides with that, chemically handle the peroxides. They have that enzyme for it, and lower the lower types of algal forms and the like don't have those peroxide enzymes. And so the reason the peroxide works on it is because of the fact of not having those enzymes.
Gloria, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment to add on to what Jim was saying about I can't say it, epidemiological studies. That they haven't done any long-term studies on humans. So people who live near lakes and breathe it, they find microcystin floating in the air 40 feet above a lake. They find it in the nostrils of people away from a lake. Nobody dies from smoking one cigarette. Uh, it's a 20-year, 30-year thing, and that's just something I had to throw in there. We need to do more long-term studies.
Okay, is there anybody else? It's 7:57. So we're coming very close to the conclusion of our meeting tonight. Last question. Anybody? Well, then I want to thank everybody for coming to the Zoom meeting tonight. Great questions. There's a lot to be doing here in 2025. So if you haven't joined us, please sign up, become a lake lover, because we're all looking for you to be part of the fun. And it is fun. We're having a lot of fun doing this, I must say. So join us. We'll have a great time. Mary,
Thank you.
any
Thank you.
statements, Mary?
Oh, just thank you, Paul and Bill and Becky and all who contributed tonight. I think if you have topics that you'd like covered, if you can put them in the chat or just let us know in the community. The community is always open. It's free. We are a charity. And so we do look for volunteers, anyone who has time or talent. Gloria Charland runs the HABS program for the Sierra Club. She's an amazing resource here. And as you heard, Paul, our science guy, and Stacy Pine are leading up that water quality effort, and Becky's and Bill are leading up education for the schools, and with partnership with folks like Gary Swick and Jim Bland and all of you. So we're very excited. But I'm just here as a resource, and we're all here as resources to help each other, because only together we solve these challenges. So thank you.
Okay, so Mary, you have the leave button, so why don't we conclude the meeting and you can let us all go.
Okay. You guys have a
Take
great
care,
night.
everyone.
Thank you. Good to be
Good
here
to
with
see
you.
you all.
Okay.
Great job.